Hello, welcome to Small Screen. Tonight I am sitting down with a chat with Shaun McLaughlin, producer of Batman Beyond, Justice League Unlimited, Static Shock, Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, Superman the Animated Series. He's worked on Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, a bunch of other stuff, and he has a new short film coming out called The Last of the TwiKnight that he just wrapped production. Hey, Shaun, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. How do you like that music? Was it
I
techno rave enough for you?
I felt like I should have a hit of ecstasy and have some glow sticks.
Did the Thanos do it for you?
Yeah, it was the Thanos saved it. I think the Thanos is the thing that really makes it work.
Good. So you've been quite busy. I would say hi to people in the chat here quick.
Sure.
Hey, Jedi Master EJ, hello there.
Hello there.
I think that's the only meme you guys are going to be getting. Bat Channel. Thank you very much. Just wanted to wish you a damn good show. I might miss some of it because I'll be driving home from work. I will definitely catch it on the replay crew. Yes, you drive safe. Hope you had a good day at work. And if in your honor, James, I'll try to watch this on the smallest screen possible. Thank you, Chrisla. I appreciate that. Not sure if that's a shot at me, but I love you, man. And Bat Channel says, Shaun McLaughlin is a man and a true pioneer. Thank you for all your brilliant work on incredible shows like JLU, JL, Batman Beyond, Superman Animated, and many, many more. That shaped my childhood. Well, there you go. I didn't even need to do my introduction. I could just read that. And yes, smash that like and subscribe to Small Screen if you haven't already. Yes, please do. We are actually nearing 2,000 subscribers, which is great. We appreciate everyone hitting that like button, subscribing.
And it's well worth the smash to subscribe.
Definitely worth the smash. Sean Harrigan. Hey, all, great to see Sean back on Small Screen. Yeah, this is what, your fourth time on here?
I think so. I think fourth, because I dropped in a couple of times.
Yeah.
When you caught me on a Friday night that wasn't a date night, and I jumped in. Well, it usually is, because when you've got 5 kids in a blended family, date night is an important thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was actually 5 months yesterday that you first came on here, when we first had you on talking about your Last of the TwiKnight Kickstarter. Yeah,
that's astonishing to me. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Nope. And then sometimes, like, I'll put out a video, and then 2 weeks later, it'll feel like it was out 6 months ago. It's like, what? I put that out ages ago. It's only 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Danzig, 1979. Going to have to leave a like and catch this on the replay. Sean's awesome. Thank you, sir. I hope you have a good sleep. I know it's late there in the UK. And I believe... And we got Kaz in the house. Kaz X, nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Okay. So, what you just wrapped production. For those who don't know, Sean, we'll start with Last TwiKnight. Why not?
Okay. So Sean, it's the last night of
the TwiKnight. Yes. So when you give us your pitch again.
It's a mockumentary about a hero somewhat like Batman getting ready to go out on his last night of patrol after he's lost everything, all his money and everything, to a personal injury lawsuit from a villain that he hurt badly. So the first line is, "Yeah, I used to have the stately place. Now I have to steam the wrinkles out of my own cape."
How did so we're happy when you made your Kickstarter. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then you had to delay filming for a bit because of COVID.
A couple people in the cast got COVID, and then it just became a matter of juggling schedules for people. So yeah, we shot 2 weeks ago. I think we had a 3-day shoot that was really extremely well planned down to the second. And we shot in 3 days, 25 hours. We only shot 1 hour over what we had expected. And nice. that was because one of the locations, the electric company was trimming trees, and we had to wait for the tree grinder to get out of the way.
That's always fun. so many shoots I've been on where it's just, someone drives by with, or just sits in the parking lot with their bass going in their car. I live on a pretty busy street, and I got some okay soundproofing when I do some voiceovers, but this is the Texas of Canada, so lots of big trucks and big loud mufflers. And they like to idle for like 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah. You'll likely hear some of that tonight. It's just about the time that people start coming home from work with that stuff here. I live in a pretty urban area, and there's a couple of people around here with loud cars, which my son calls tiny dick men.
Yeah, that's what my girlfriend calls them too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, whenever she hears it, she goes, "Oh, sorry about your size."
Yeah.
No offense to any regulars watching with the big truck.
Or a small penis.
Oh, that deserves
Yeah.
So, when did you wrap production?
2 or 3 weeks ago on a Tuesday. We shot a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I had to bring some people in from out of town, and we had one location that we only had for a day. That was the location you were looking at the pictures and admiring, which we were really lucky to get. Yeah. That is the inside of a old grain silo on the riverfront.
Wow.
And we had the run of the whole thing, so we made a lot of use out of that.
That's a brilliant location.
Yeah, it was. That was the day when the temperature dropped 30 degrees and it was raining, and it's an old grain silo, so most of it was soaking wet.
Safety.
And we were in there doing stunts and with a bunch of equipment, a bunch of electrical equipment.
I just noticed the Slimer graffiti in the bottom right hand corner there.
Yeah, so the place where we do this, they do a chalk art festival every summer when it's not 30 degrees and raining.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long is the short going to be?
I think it's going to be about 10 minutes. So this is right outside the grain elevator, and we got the city in the background. And that's in the middle there. So that's the TwiKnight and his femme fatale, Lady Avnik. And in the background is the TwiKnight sidekick, the first Red Squire, who had a huge crush on Lady Avnik. And he had to wear a cup because he got a boner whenever she was around.
I really like the costumes. You guys did a great job.
That's
badass.
That's the TwiKnight. That's the TwiKnight. It's it was my son worked in the costume shop at Geneseo College, and then I have a background in theater, so it was the two of us working together on these things.
Oh wow, that's great.
So one of the jokes of the movie is that superheroes finding costumes is hard. And at one point, when they're interviewing him, the TwiKnight says, it's not like I can go out and have this stuff made for me. You can't trust somebody to talk, so I just have to buy from wherever I can. And I used to get on a lot of weird mailing lists.
Right, like no Kevlar weave or anything like that.
Right.
Oh, it makes complete sense. So this is outside of the granary.
Grain elevator, yeah.
The grain elevator. You guys utilize the outside location too.
Yeah, we used we had that, and it's a thing called Riverworks in Buffalo, and they were very kind to let us use it. So we had the inside of these old grain silos, which are huge, and then we had the area outside of that, right on the river, which was the last picture you showed, and then we had a storage area where they use where they've put a lot of old amusement park rides and things like that. So that's sadly only one shot, but we got to use it, so it all looked great. I mean, it looked like it had it looked like we'd spent a lot more money on it than we did.
Yeah, amazing production value for sure.
And I see Kaz saying it's Catty Woman. Well, this whole thing's sort of like a parody of a lot of the stuff I worked on in my career. So it's inspired by things like that.
Is it something like your final word on these characters?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to use this as a proof of concept to do a longer piece or a series, but I think this is the kind of stuff I would want to do if I went with these characters. Because what I hear a lot, like when people talk about like the Batman movies, is especially the Nolan movies, like, oh, it's so realistic. Like, no, it's not. You know, this is realistic. You know, this is a dumpy guy in tights, you know, going out and fighting crime. This is, you know, and trying to figure out how to make a costume without anybody finding out who he is.
Does he have any gadgets at all?
Yeah, he has that we use it in the movie. He has a weapon called the Twi disc that he throws, and it knocks the guys out, and then it's got his picture on it.
So if you're going to do a series, if for this as a proof concept, and you want to do a series or a feature film, would you want to do like a mini series or like pitch it to studios or crowdfund it? Have you thought that far ahead yet?
You know, I'm not so sure I want to crowdfund again. That was incredibly stressful. I'm never going to say never, but it was really stressful, and just the way I did it. And it happened that the actual crowdfunding went up the day I returned from my first vacation in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So that meant I was spending time on my vacation, you know, working things together, working things up. And just the you know, are we going to make it or aren't we going to make it is more stressful.
Very nerve-wracking.
Yeah. You know, I'd like to, when this is in editing now, when it's done, I'd like to, you know, be able to take it out. It's going to be taken out to festivals and stuff, and then, nice. You know, use it as a proof of concept to see what we can get from there.
Do you have a ETA for post-production time?
No, you know the triangle. You know, you can have something fast and cheap, or you can have something good and fast, but you can't have it good, fast, and cheap. So the fast part's what's going on this, and the editor's a really great guy. His name's A.D. Annis. He runs a local film program here. His wife actually plays the older Lady Avnik, and she's a terrific actress who's worked all over the country. He's editing it, and I told him, like, you know, take your time, do whatever you want. Just I've got no rush. I'm not trying to make any specific festival date or anything like that. When it's done, and it's done good, it's done.
Well, we kind of have the same methodology here when it comes to videos. It's like, Edward, I'm like, this is not going to be done for another day or two. It's like, well, that's fine as long as it looks, you know, like, I can't put something out. Like, if I watch it after it's out and I knew I half-assed it, that would bug me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, especially this, because this is you know, we were talking before we got on. I've been working on this for 3 years.
Yeah. So
to me, it's gotta be good, and it's gotta come up to some of the stuff I did before.
No, exactly. And so you started writing this 3 years ago.
Yep.
And how did that come about?
I was trying to find something to do. I've been trying to do, you know, I did the independent movie Gene Fusion a few years ago, and from that spun off a couple of ideas that we were out shopping for live action projects. And it was always trying to get something done on a budget. And the one thing I was pitching at the time a lot was a film festival superhero film, as opposed to something with, you know, all action and crashing titans and stuff like that. And we had a couple of things. For a while we had the rights to, I don't know if you know the graphic novel Fade from Grace, but we spent a number of years developing that as a feature film, and it didn't work out. So I was looking around for something to do, and the thing I thought about was, you know, to do a micro budget film, try and use what you have. Don't go out and find stuff. Try and use what you have. So I looked around, and I was just divorced, and I was living in a sort of beat up suburban. I still am. This is my son's room in my sort of beat up kind of suburban house. It's a first ring of suburbs, and it's now actually an urban area. That you know, I had, when we got divorced, I had custody of my son, and I had 5 days to find a house, so I didn't have time to find the thing I really wanted. So we got this, and the idea was my son and I would fix this up together over the next couple of years. So that's what I had. So what could I do with a beat up suburban house that would be interesting? And I got the idea that of a superhero who had lost all his money in a personal injury suit. and how would he deal with that?
Oh man, I can't wait to see it, and yeah, I think it'll do well on the festival circuit. I hope it develops into something more afterwards.
I hope so. I like that everybody's commenting that they like it, because I'll tell you, like you and I were talking before, I'm so close to this now. I have no idea if this is any good or not.
Yeah, well, once you get like tunnel vision, once you're involved in something for so long.
Yeah.
Right. And how did the shoots go? Like you said, you only shot 1 hour more footage than you need, like out of the 25-hour shoot.
Yeah, we had 25-hour shoot, and we only went 1 hour over. It went really well. I mean, literally the only problem was we had having to stop for noise a couple of times. We had people who were really kind to us. The people who let us use this location were really kind. We had a whole day. It was really uncomfortable. And once you're in that suit, once the guy's in that suit, you don't get out of it. Because it's not like a rubber Batman suit, like Val Kilmer talked about. He couldn't see or hear anything outside of it, so it's not like that. But it's a whole body suit with layers underneath it, and you can't even. The gloves are a part of the suit, so you can't even manipulate anything. So stuck in that suit all day, and then people having to change clothes in the area. And the building right next to us was hosting the Golden Gloves competition for Western New York. So there was the girl who had to change into the cat costume. She had an interesting moment, but
wow.
I was like really concerned about it. She's a terrific actress that I've worked with before, a local actress that when I was teaching college I had worked with, and I was really concerned about her because it's not a revealing costume, but it's tight, and it's sexy. So like I had a guy going with her to change with a duffel coat to make sure she was covered up and that she could get back and forth without any harassment.
Yeah, security is key.
Yeah.
How do you think you could describe your directing style on this shoot?
I plan everything out to the second. I storyboard it just like it's an animation. And then the guy with the camera there was one of the co-producers, Clint Byrne, who's also the DP. And I told him, whatever, as long as I get what I want, what I storyboarded out, you do whatever else you want. So we had 2 or 3 cameras running at one time.
Nice.
And we're able to get a lot of different things. And then we took advantage of, like, we walked out and we saw this, we had this cityscape here, which is a pretty terrific background.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just like, okay, let's pick this shot up. Did you okay, so did you shoot a scene that was already in the script, or did you add to it to utilize the location of this cityscape?
No, we had this is a scene that we had in the script, but when we saw this, was like, this is what we're going to do. And then we had the light pole behind it, and the guy playing the first Red Squire, because there are 2 Red Squires. The guy playing the first Red Squire is a parkour instructor. So, AJ, can you climb the lamppost? Oh yeah.
Nice. Oh, he's a parkour instructor in real life.
Yeah, that's what he does for a living.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Did you utilize that in any actions? Well, you said there's not.
No, there's a couple action scenes, and we use that. Yes. There's nice. 2 small action scenes, and the action is, that was another thing, was like when everybody talks about the action and like the Batman first Batman scene in Batman versus Superman, where he breaks into the warehouse place, like, oh, it's so realistic. Like, no, it's not. Fights are ugly and clumsy and tough.
Yeah. Oh man, I really can't wait to see this now.
That's what this is like. I'll tell you one funny story about the fight, was that the cape ripped during the last take of the fight.
Oh. And
my son took it and to repair the latch on the neck. It's 2 pieces. It's a hood and a cape, plus the part underneath, plus the mask. So my son took it, and he comes up later and he's checking out around the collar to see if there was any blood, because he goes, there's blood on the cape, and did somebody get hurt doing the fight, and where'd the blood come from? And he's going like this, checking it, and then he stops and goes, oh, it's on me. I ripped my finger open with the needle. Never mind.
Ouch. Well, when you, I hope you get a trailer soon. Like, I'm definitely intrigued about this. Maybe you can premiere the trailer on here. I think that would be
Yeah,
cool.
we'll see. As soon as AD gets it cut, we'll look through it. He sent me a couple of stills, which are in some of the stuff I sent you, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how it looks. But like I said, I'm way too close to it, so
No, I
I
think it
don't.
looks
I don't
great. I
know.
love that costume. Yeah, I love that costume. Yeah, just send me the raw footage and I'll cut a trailer for you. No problem.
I've got 6 terabytes of footage.
Beautiful. Oh man, yeah, 3 cameras. Yeah, you guys. It's a good production setup for sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, I trained as an actor, so I don't want to do little bits and pieces if I don't have to. Right? I want to get through as much of it as I can.
All right. Well, hopefully in a couple months we'll get to see a trailer for it at least.
I'll let you know as soon as I get it.
I'll keep bugging you. I'll bug you more than usual. How's that?
You never bug me. You talk to me, but you never bug me. No, you don't. I mean, I would say if people bug me, I'm known for being my old one of my chairs when I was teaching at college referred to me as the blunt instrument of academia.
I was just telling people recently, yeah, I may be a dick, but I'm only a dick about the truth.
Right. Someone I dated told me that you don't have to call everyone on their bullshit, Shaun.
But it's gonna eat at you if you don't, though.
Right.
All right. So So when you were first on the show back in November, you had mentioned that you started working at DC Comics.
Yeah, I got in. What happened was I had worked at Fantagraphics very briefly.
Oh, I want to hear about that.
And through that, I met some people who wound up at DC and at Warner Brothers Animation. So when the opportunity came up to write, when Aquaman became available for the 50th anniversary year, they went through several people, and they either didn't like the pitches or there were communication issues. And I kind of lucked out and got the Aquaman assignment.
Nice.
Which was a blessing and a curse, as has been gone into in deep detail in other places.
All right. What did you work at on Fantagraphics? It was an entry-level position, or?
Yeah, I was doing promotions for them, and it didn't work out because I have I don't really have a learning disability, but I have a lot of issues with anxiety, and so I literally do not have the ability to proofread.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So I hear you about the anxiety, by the way.
Yeah. It's gotten better over the years, and I'm not kidding when I say I'm medicated now, and that makes a difference. But it was a real chore for everybody involved, I think. So I left there, and I went, and I was in Los Angeles at the time, and I went to work in retail, the only job I could get at the time. So I had to get along as best I could. That's my son's sword, and it's a court of owls mask, Shaun.
Yeah, that was you got it for his birthday, right?
Christmas
present.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. J, what's up? Thank you for the hundreds. Hey, Bobby, good to see you. Nice, Bobby. Yeah, I've been dealing with anxiety for a couple decades now, and there was like 2 years where I just said, okay, enough's enough, and it's like I had to figure out how to build some roadblocks for myself and to recognize the warning signs, and then it's just about constructing your life around you so you're comfortable and you can function. Right. And then to be able, and then to keep yourself motivated at the same time and distracted, I find. So
Right. What happens to me is I start working on something and I become very focused on it, and then I'm very excited about it. I just wanted somebody else to look at it. And
right.
that's what I've had to work my way through as a writer quite often.
I'm exactly the same way. Like I'll be cutting something and I'll be 30 seconds into it and I'm like, all right, export. I gotta show some people.
Yep.
Or like a page from a comic I'm penciling. It's like, okay, I can't wait. I gotta show someone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll tell you that the best thing for me has been Grammarly has made a huge impact in my writing. So it's not a plug-in. I'm not getting a kickback, but it really has made a huge difference because I can take it and it's doing something else. And it makes it look nice. And they're also, what I learned as a story editor and my day job now is I read scripts for a living. I read and do development on scripts. If the idea is good enough and the actual work is good enough, you can excuse a lot. So it kind of like makes you understand the idea and stuff, and the presentation is a part of that to be
Right,
professional.
like the broad scope.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If like basically if you can pitch it in like 5 minutes succinctly, and you have a good
Yeah.
oh, that word's escaping me now. Not premise, but a good synopsis. Right.
Log line.
Log line, there you go. And you can just land it and then you can really recognize what the potential and the value is of that project.
Yeah, I forget who said, but someone said if you can't pitch it in a sentence, you haven't thought about it enough.
Right, exactly. So Aquaman 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Right. Why was that a blessing and a curse?
It was one of my favorite characters from when I was a kid. My three favorite characters when I was a kid were Captain America, Luke Cage, and Aquaman. Nice. So I was getting to work on one of my dream characters. But I as I said, has been gone into detail in many other places. The editor and I were in conflict constantly, and it turns out he was also in conflict later on the same character with Peter David and with Eric Larson. So,
you're gonna name them or no?
No.
Okay. And
it won't be hard for anyone to find out.
No. What else did you work on at DC? You did Aquaman.
I did a issue of Hawkman. I did development on a couple of things that never went anywhere, and then I sort of moved on, half encouraged to move on, and half, that was right when the crash came. So 91, 92 was when the comic book crash came. So we started off selling sold more than 1 million copies of #1, and then by 8 or 9 we were down to, I think, 15,000.
Wow.
And when we finished at 13, we were doing 45 or 55,000, which was actually good numbers for that time.
Sorry, you said this was Hawkman or Aquaman?
Aquaman.
Okay. Did you work in the offices there?
No. I was living in California at the time, and the offices were in New York. So
New York, yeah.
I think I went in twice, 2 or 3 times to go there.
So what are your views on the crash? Like we broached upon this like a little bit before, but when it came to like, I think it had a lot to do with the oversaturation when like Image came out, or it had a lot to do with Marvel doing the cover foils. And
I mean, that was part of it. I mean, what was happening was
collectors.
They weren't really selling to readers, and they weren't really concerned about getting new readers. They were worried about selling individual issues, so it just became selling widgets, and that's not going to hold. I mean, I don't know if we've talked about it, but I think that the direct market was a great thing to happen to comics, but the way it was done and the focus on the direct market is part of what's sort of killed comics, because there's no way for new generations to come up and find comics.
Yeah.
And now that ship has sailed, but there's, when I was a kid,
no more spinner racks.
Right. As my father used to say, when I was a boy,
yeah,
there were comics in the supermarket. They were in drugstores. We talked about in Canada, I lived 90 miles north of Toronto, and basically what was the bush at that time. And we had a general store, and they had a spinner rack with comics.
Yeah.
So, when that goes, it's hard to bring new readers in.
That's a shame. I really do miss seeing spinner racks. I mean, I live in a small town here, and you're lucky if you can. Well, you can find like an Archie Digest at the supermarket,
Right.
but they're like $10 now.
Are
Like,
they?
yeah, they're like $8.95, $9.75 or something for like not even that thick, not even a double digest. It's
Wow.
insane. So,
Wow.
yeah.
So I think there were a lot of things going on, but it was also just they were just producing so much stuff, and then nobody really cared about what was in it.
And when the big shift in diamond distributors, was that around the same time?
That was a few years later, I think, a couple years later.
Yeah. Okay. So after DC Comics, you got a job as you're saying as a PA? Production
Yeah, so
assistant?
it was a couple years later. I had to scrounge around for work again after that. I think the thing that a lot of people don't know is that to get in any creative job, it's a lot of catch can work, even after you've succeeded. I mean, I've known people who have been producers of shows and have wound up having to work in a sheet metal warehouse.
Yep.
After they've like got tons of awards and made a lot of money. Not me, but I've had a lot of crappy jobs. I mean, at one point after DC, I was cleaning houses for a living.
Yeah.
But someone else I knew from Fantagraphics had become a director at Warner Brothers Animation. His name was Audu Payden. He was a director on Tasmania and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. And he pretty much made it his job to get me in there as a production assistant, however he could. And I'm very grateful to him for that, because he knew that I had worked in management, retail management. That's how I got my way. That's how I worked my way through undergraduate school. And so I had management experience, and he knew that once I got in there, I'd be able to work my way up. So, and that's what happened. I became a production assistant, which, if you don't know what a production assistant is, it's a gopher. You're doing whatever needs to be done. I did a ton of Xeroxing. I did a lot of paste up. I did
delivering coffee.
Yeah, no, I didn't do a lot of delivering coffee because I was too big at that time, and people found it creepy to have me walking in the room. But I shot animatics and stuff like that, and
nice.
I was a production assistant for 6 months, and I became production coordinator, and then I became senior production coordinator in charge of all the coordinators and assistants, and then
What show was this on?
Animaniacs.
Animaniacs, okay. So this
And
is
then
like
95,
96?
I started August 1st, 1994.
Okay.
So the stuff I worked on was the first stuff that went on to the WB when Fox lost that stuff.
Nice.
And then I worked on Pinky and the Brain, and I wrote a Pinky and the Brain. And then when the associate producer of Superman became pregnant and she was going to go on leave, they needed a production manager to go over there and work with the crew when she was gone. And they said, this guy's available. And Bruce and some of those guys, they didn't know me, but they knew of me, and they knew my name from comics. So they figured, well, he might be a good fit over here. So that's where I was, and that's where I spent the next 10 years of my career.
How was working with Bruce and Paul and them?
Good. It was really good. I mean, we had some disagreements about stuff, especially as I, climbed the ladder and became the guy who signed checks. But I really enjoyed it. It was. My mother was not right about a lot of things in her life, but the one thing I think she was right about was she told me at one point, I think you're finally working with your people. It was great. I think the real brilliance of what Bruce Timm did at that time was that he looked at television animation, the state it was in, and he no longer pushed it to try and be something that it couldn't be. He looked at what could be done well and what was not being done well, and he worked the stuff around the designs and everything around what could be done well, and that made a huge change in how those shows came out.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, especially when it just came out of the gate like that, and it was like nothing you ever saw. Well, nothing you had seen in a long time in animation.
Right.
Using all the just black paper for the backgrounds and filling in the lights and stuff. And
that was Radomski's idea.
Yeah, and just that whole just the way it just all came together, and the episodic value of Batman the Animated Series, and then it carried over. I in Just League Unlimited, I really liked how they expanded, but we'll get that into later. Going back to what your mom said about finding the people you're meant to be working with. It's nice when you find that group. Like, you really thrive creatively, eh?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I'm the fat kid who became a jock in high school, and I never felt like I belonged. I never felt like I was really a part of the team. I was always reading, and I was always into movies and things like that. I mean, I've told the story probably to you that I remember being 8 years old, vividly remember being 8 years old and watching a Tarzan movie, a Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movie on TV, and realizing that you could never be Tarzan, but somebody had to make those movies. And I vividly remember, I could take you to the house where we lived at the time and point to the spot where I was sitting. I vividly remember making that connection and realizing that I wanted to do that. But, where I was growing up, nobody ever thought about doing stuff like that. You were crazy to think about doing stuff like that.
That's the epiphany.
Yeah. Nobody knew how to do that. Nobody in my family had ever done that. My grandfather had some connections to show business, but he died when my father was 4. So because he'd been friends with Douglas Fairbanks, that wasn't going to do me a lot of good. So I had to find my own way.
Nice. And you did. Were you, we're going to jump a bit ahead of here, but
yeah.
Okay. So in the new Batman Adventures, the one where there's the I can't remember if I asked you this before, but the dream sequence, where the cops are after Batman, and there's Batman and Bane on the rooftop, and where Batgirl dies, she falls off the roof.
I don't remember this. Is this from the series that was with Superman?
This is in no, this is the new Batman Adventures.
Yeah, that was produced at the same time as Superman, and it was shown as the new Batman Superman Adventures.
Right, and you were on the okay. So yeah, it's the one where they use the animation from the behind the scenes. When I watched it, they use the animation from a new American animation house, a little bit of computer graphics in there. And it starts off with Jim Gordon and the police team crashing into the Wayne Manor, looking to arrest Batman and Nightwing, and they hop in their boat.
But this doesn't sound familiar to me.
Let me find the episode here. And
the first time I remember working with animation American House was there was Star Tunes that worked. They might have worked with some of the original Batman.
Star Tunes is who I was thinking of. Okay,
so that's Batman or the Adventures of Batman and Robin. That's not the one that was done. So what happened was
Over the Edge. That was the episode. Was called May 1998.
No, I would have worked on that.
Yeah. So there's the one is the little bit of trivia I liked was the fact that when Batgirl falls off the building, they had it in the original cut where she fell on the cop car and then she died, but the censor said no, you can't have that, it's too graphic. Put the camera inside the cop car. So they put it inside the cop car, and it was even more brutal.
Yeah, that happened sometime. Oh, I remember this now. I'm looking at it. Yeah, okay, this is the Scarecrow episode, right?
Yeah, you worked on a lot of episodes.
I did over 400 episodes of television.
That's nuts. Wow.
Yeah, 400 episodes of television and 4 feature films. And I did it all between 1994 and 2007.
A whirlwind.
So I actually, a few years ago, my son was watching TV, and I walked through the room, and there was Dead Man was on the TV. And I stopped, and I looked at it, and I said, who did Dead Man? And he turned around and looked at me like, you did. Was it good?
That was from the Justice League Unlimited? Or was that from the DC Showcase?
No, it was Justice League Unlimited.
Nice. So after you went on into the Adventures of Superman, what happened after that? Like you migrated over you said to the Batman animated.
So what happened was, as a part of Superman, we did World's Finest.
Okay,
We
so
did
you
the
did that
3-part
movie first.
World's Finest. It was 3-part episode that then we knew could be put together into a home video, and Bruce did a complete top-down design on Batman for that, which worked really well. Though it was very controversial. It's funny to remember, like on the internet, people had gotten a hold of some of the designs early, and I remember someone literally saying Bruce Timm has gone way too far with his flat graphics, and this will never work. And that was pretty successful. And then I think the network and the toy people became involved and said, "Hey, can you do some Batman instead?" So they cut off the end of the Superman order, and we did the Batman episodes, and they ran them as the new Batman Superman adventures.
Who chose that box art for World's Finest?
Which box art? The crappy balloony airbrush box art?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Warner Home Video, who never wanted to listen to anything we had to say.
Yeah, there's the really comparison between the Banes there. I really like that style. I don't know. At that age, I was like, what, 17, 18. I was like, oh, I was like fixated on the art style from the animated series. But as I read the comics, and like where Rick Burchett was the artist on the Batman and Robin comic books, and you could really see the depth and you could really utilize this kind of slimmed down design. I really started to really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, like I said, Bruce's genius is that this stuff is easier to animate, and a lot of people say it's dumbing it down, and that's not fair. It's smartening it up. It's doing the things that animation can do well, especially with the limitations of American television animation. Everybody is trying to push for the quality of a Disney feature 2D animated film, and you just cannot do that on a television budget and on television time. And frankly, all the people who could do that stuff work for Disney, and they're too fucking expensive. So, you can't do that for television. So, this stuff animates well, and you can animate it quickly and with less need for retakes. And it does the things that you're supposed to do. For instance, like if you look at the Killer Croc model in the middle, I remember vividly the problem with that is that sometimes the lines on the shoulders would float.
Right.
But other than that, that was like the biggest issue I think we had.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier for the animation houses overseas to animate it for sure.
Yeah, it makes it easier for any animation house. And the thing is that, you used to hear a lot of people who worked for the studios complaining about, the crappy animation from overseas. And the fact is that those people were really good. And the reason the animation was crappy is because you were asking them to do things that you couldn't do in the turnaround time they had.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
It's 9 months from the time a show hits the floor. At this time, rather, this is before digital. We were still FedExing stuff overseas. It's 9 months from the time the script hits the floor until you do the final cut.
Yeah.
And you're doing 3 episodes at once.
And then when you got it, if there's any mistakes, do you have to send it back, or do you fix it there at Warner Brothers?
If you could fix it in editing, you'd fix it, but otherwise you do call retakes, yes, and you send it back, and that those things become priority, and they have to turn those around fairly quickly.
I thought so. The old style. I don't know if you ever saw the comic books based on these. You probably have.
Yeah.
Mike Parobeck is one of my favorite artists.
Yeah.
God rest his soul. But I think like he did an amazing job translating what you guys put on screen to the comic books, especially with his panel layout. And I just can't, like, he's been a big influence on my art style for sure.
Templeton, Ty Templeton too.
Yeah, really, especially with him and I like Ty Templeton's art. I just find it's a bit For my liking is a bit too loose. The ankles will get too skinny, or the wrists will get too skinny. But meanwhile, like Mike Perrobeck or Rick Burchett, like everything it's streamlined and it's solidarity, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Everything, everything has its place, and you can really see the depth and the 3D of it. Where meanwhile, like Ty Templeton, I like his artwork. But it's a little bit more cartoony for my liking when it comes to that stuff.
I think that's the strength of it myself. I mean,
the form
for me, the guys who really, my opinion is the guys who really got it from what we did were Ty Templeton and Craig Rousseau.
Ty Templeton and who? Sorry,
Craig Rousseau.
Oh yeah, interesting, but not Mike Perrobeck, eh?
No, I liked him, but I thought those two guys were closer to what we were doing. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's just, a comic book's a different thing. It can't be exactly what the cartoons were, and nor should it be.
I agree. I'm just looking up some of Mike Perrobeck stuff because I want to show you. I mean, I know you've seen him, but like some of just his. Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah, let's bring this up here. I understand what you mean now. Like that's the covers are really close to the, but it's still it's a little bit too grandiose, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you can do stuff in a comic that we couldn't do. I mean, you can take the time and really, you'd hear a lot of fans in the early days complain about, oh, the detail's all gone. Like, why are you obsessed about detail? How does that make something better?
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I prefer simplicity and form and good line work, to be honest with you. So
yeah.
So you jumped from, you did The World's Finest, and then did you do Batman Return of the Joker?
No,
Batman, that was in 2000.
It was I think it was 26 episodes of what we at the time were calling Gotham Knights, and then it became the New Batman Adventures. So we did 52 Superman and then 26 of those, and then Batman Beyond. And while we were doing Batman Beyond was when they asked for the direct-to-video movie. And at one point, they were going to build an entirely different crew separate from us to do it. And I had come up with a plan that we could use our own people and make it work, and do it on time and under budget. And
they bought it, obviously. Was that a hard sell, or like why did they want to get a whole totally different crew on it, just to save some money, or they thought you guys would be too expensive, or
they thought we'd be too busy.
Yeah. All right. How did the Batman? So Batman Beyond came around 1999. That's when it came out. When did you guys have it in development? Like when
it was a year or a little bit more before that, because they what happened was that Kenner had the toy license at the time, and they wanted a freshening of the series. They didn't want to just keep doing Batman, which is one of the things that drove me crazy about working in kids TV was that so far. It's funny because I was talking to my son about this morning. Nickelodeon is the only people who will stick with a show until it runs out of steam. With SpongeBob. Other places are like, all right, we've done 52 of those. Time to move on. So they wanted to freshen the Batman franchise. And so they came in with pitches. One of their pitches being a young Bruce Wayne traveling the world, learning the things he's going to need to learn to be Batman. And I remember Alan Burnett saying, so you want us to do a Batman show without any Batman in?
I want Superman, but I want to see him in that stupid costume, and he can't fly. And he's got to fight a giant spider.
It's hard to remember, but back then, like, there were people who, to make a superhero movie, you had to get them out of the costume. Yeah. Nobody wanted characters in costume then. The guy who directed the first Captain America movie, the one that came out in the 80s. 90s? No, the one with Matt Salinger as Captain America.
Ears.
Yeah. Yeah, he said his exact quote was, "First thing we need to do is get him out of the damn suit."
Well, that's like producer Joel Silver when he was doing Superman. He was trying to do a Superman movie. He didn't want him in the costume. He didn't want to see him fly.
Right.
Yeah. And he wanted him to fight a giant spider.
Right. So, we went back, and Bruce and Paul and Alan and Glenn Murakami sort of came up with Batman Beyond, and the idea was to take some of the stuff that they liked about teenage characters and how could we do, because they said they wanted a young Batman. That was specific. That was the watchword at the time. You know, everybody had to be a teenager
To appeal to that audience.
Well, you know, I don't know, because, you know, does Batman not appeal to an audience? Batman seems to do okay being an adult.
Yeah. But I think like the execs, you know, if they could, they have like Batman be 14 years old.
Oh, they tried that. At one point, the network came in, and because they didn't want to do any more violent shows, they thought Batman Beyond was way too violent. So they wanted to do a show about in the future where 3 kids were competing to see who got to be Batman.
Really?
And I remember Alan Burnett going, so they're competing to see whose parents are going to be murdered?
Must have been great to work with Alan Burnett.
It was. You know, the problem is that when there's a changeover in a network hierarchy, you know, everybody's got to put their own stamp on things, and they don't want to let just things that are working stay working.
Yeah.
When at one point, Gene McCurdy, who was the president of Warner Brothers Animation, was also the head of the Kids WB, and, you know, all she was cared about, is it good? If it's good, let's do it. If it's not good, let's don't do it. Yeah, Bakertown. It wasn't. It was kind of like an animated TV reality game show, but that was just when that stuff was starting. So that wasn't the concept that was there. They wanted it to be like almost like a race every episode to see which one of these kids got to be Batman.
So when you did Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, how did that come about? Like, because you said they wanted to have a different production team on Batman Beyond.
They wanted to have a direct-to-video movie. They had looked at the numbers on Mask of the Phantasm, and this is quite a few years later. And they wanted to have a movie. What they liked at the time were things like World's Finest, where it's a bunch of episodes that you can cut together seamlessly into a movie. It doesn't look like different episodes, or something produced exactly for that. So they wanted to have a direct-to-video feature film, and we hadn't done the Joker at that time. They were saving it for something special, and that seemed to be like the idea to go with.
Who came up? Let's see. So Paul Dini came up with the story, and Glenn Murakami.
It was Paul and Glenn came up with the story, but it was mostly Paul writing the script. But everybody, you know, worked on it to a certain degree. Bruce, Paul, Alan, Glenn were all involved in the creation of the story.
All right. Was there anything that like didn't make it into the film? Anything that was too far off? I mean, because it got pretty dark there with Tim Drake and everything.
Well, you know, it was pulled, and we had to reanimate a whole bunch of stuff because they weren't going to release it at one point.
I heard it was pulled, but I didn't know that. What did you guys have to reanimate?
Well, halfway through, I mean, when we finished it was when the new Kids WB management had come in, and they didn't want to have any violence, let alone what that thing was.
Did you guys have hyenas eating babies out of a baby carriage again?
No. We talked about it, but we didn't do that. We had sent the script, and we had sent storyboards to everybody who was responsible for approving them. And a bunch of them just never bothered looking at the stuff. So when the film came back and we did a viewing of it on the lot, we had a screening in a screening room crew and executives. A couple executives just lost their shit, about all the stuff with Tim Drake and all the violence in it. And to tell you how hip some of these people were, we were at one meeting and some woman said, "What is this Batarang thing? Batman never had that before. Why is that? Seems awfully mean."
Wow.
So there was about 2 weeks of retakes and recuts, and then they released a watered down version, and then like 3 months later they released the original version.
I've only seen the original version. I haven't seen the watered down version.
Yeah, there's a PG version floating around. I don't know if it's even available anymore. I think they were running it on HBO at one time, but they wound up just using it as a marketing ploy. But at the time, it was I was afraid we were going to lose our jobs because they were just we were. So Warner Brothers Animation at that time was in Sherman Oaks and not at the Burbank lot. And Bruce and I were driving to the lot every day for like 2 weeks, basically to get spanked, and then having to go back and he had to recut the movie and I had to call for retakes on stuff, and it had to be. It cost a lot of money because it was it had to be done quickly. No, the cut that's out is the one there's available now. The PG-13 version is pretty much what was originally intended in the script. I found my copy of the script a couple of months ago when I was looking for stuff. I did that auction for TwiKnight, and I found my copy of the script, and it's hilarious because at the time there was somebody on staff who was releasing stuff to the internet, and we were trying to keep everything secret about it. So the script is numbered and it's printed on red paper. We had to go over to the lot and give it to the magic printing people on the lot, and they printed it on red paper so it couldn't be Xerox
photocopy. Yeah,
and they were all numbered and people had to sign them out. So this is what life was like before everything was digital, kids.
Wow. That red paper copyright protection. Yeah. Well, so you guys took a lot of flack for that, but it's not like you had Batman having sex with Batgirl.
No, but that obviously happened afterwards at some point because.
What do you think of that? Putting that in the Killing Joke.
Well, it's in Batman Beyond too. There's a mention that Bruce and Barbara had an affair.
Yeah, but that was like later on in the year.
Oh, in the animated Killing Joke?
Yeah, in the animated Killing Joke, they like.
It's the least offensive thing I find about the Killing Joke storyline.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
What do you find offensive about it?
I think
Are you talking about the animated? Or are you talking about the graphic novel now?
Both. I mean, I think it's very purposefully, like a lot of things that Alan Moore did. The stuff that he was commenting on actually becomes the thing that people really focus on. And I think the Joker is supposed to be a vile, misogynistic villain, and people find that titillating for some reason. And that's it's like the people who think that Rorschach is the coolest character in Watchmen when he's clearly the most damaged.
I can see that. But it's like, well, you love to hate the anti-hero though, right?
Right, but they seem to like take away the
redeeming qualities.
Yeah, they don't understand. They think he's cool, as opposed to being a guy who gets things done, but who's not really something you want to emulate. There's that scene in Watchmen where he's breaking people's fingers in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
He's that far away from a sociopath.
Yeah. And okay, so I see. Yeah, that makes sense about Alan Moore's writing.
The animated stuff, I haven't watched a lot of it. I've watched some of it since I left, and it's become aimed more at an adult audience because that's who's buying this stuff. It's
not as good though. I don't know, but there's something like I watched Superman Red Sun. It was pretty good. They have this they've had it for a while now, where they have this like layer over top of all the animation cells to add that texture. I mean,
it's a filter. It's not a layer. They're not on cells anymore. It's all digital.
Right, but okay, but I mean, I'm talking about layers on a computer though, like Photoshop layers. Like,
Right.
throw it on top, and with
Right.
a little bit of transparency.
Right.
But and it works sometimes. It sometimes just throws me off a little bit. But I don't know, like I don't know if the sound quality is different, but the sound quality doesn't sound the same. The voice acting is still good, not as good as I think when Andrea Romano was the voice director and casting. But I don't know. I think the last one that I really enjoyed was the Flashpoint. I really enjoyed Flashpoint, and then when they did Justice League War, it was based off Jeff Johns' run. Once they had Justice League saying the Justice League's got this, I was like, oh, okay. You know, I do kind of like that. I mean, Young Justice, like I'm still trying to watch the third season. I took a break, but I really enjoyed the first two seasons. And I really like that animation style and how they set that up.
I just don't know why everything has become a stepped on anime style as opposed to anything new. And you know, if you're going to do that style, then you don't really need the people in the United States doing the pre-production. Just hand it to the people who know how to do it.
You talking about Young Justice?
Young Justice was, I think, sort of the beginning of that, and that worked a little bit better. But all the animated movies I've seen, like Red Sun, you know, Red Sun's got some great, and Long Halloween. Both of those have great source material, which have a great graphic style that would be really adapted well to animation. I mean, Dave Johnson did the designs for Red Sun and did Red Sun, and he was one of our background designers, for fuck's sake. You know, make it look like that. Why not? Why are you making it look like something else? That, to me, part of what would be interesting about doing that stuff is trying to make it look like picking the stuff from the comics that would animate well. This looks like anime influence, which is fine, but you know, why? You know, my thing with anime, when I used to do portfolio reviews for people, and people would show me this stuff, and this, maybe I'm just old and maybe I'm just out of touch, but I would look at this stuff and go, if we wanted to do that, we would just hire a studio in Japan.
Yeah, but I think it's like the evolution of art styles all merging, right? As it becomes more influence in different cultures.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but to me, it just seems like if you're going to do that, just hire a Japanese studio and let them go crazy.
Right, but I mean, a lot of comic book artists now have so many different influences, so you can see how it can like bleed into it. I get what you're saying.
Do they have different influences, or do they all have the same influences?
I don't know. Growing up, Scud the Disposable Assassin by Rob Schrab and Dan Harmon's La Casa Nostroid and Greg Hyland's Lethargic Lad and
the
Too Much Coffee Man by Shannon Wheeler. Those are all my influences.
Yeah, but you're looking at that. But are the people who are coming up now looking at that?
I mean, there's a lot of, I gotta say, in the indie comic book scene, there's a lot of artists that are very similar, you know, and they have there is a style like this that they emulate. Yeah. But then there's others that are original, but unfortunately, the originality is not going to hit the mainstream market until it breaks through.
You know what I think when I see this? I think that Ben Dunn was doing this stuff with Ninja High School in the 80s.
Yeah, he's still doing it with Antarctic Press.
Yeah. You know, so I don't know. I look at stuff like when I hear about
like Robotech, right? Like Robotech.
And when the Punisher became a ninja, it's like, you know, when Walt Simonson did the ninja stuff in Manhunter in '72, it was fresh and new, and when Frank did it with Daredevil in the '80s, it was a breath of fresh air. And now it's 2022, and maybe we could move on and find something else.
Eastman, Kevin Eastman just did. Have you seen The Last Ronin?
No, I'd be interested to see that because I like his stuff.
It's about the last Ninja Turtle in the future, in the far off future, and like Shredder has control of the whole city. I got a friend who's done a couple of the variant covers. It's a really good read, actually. You should read it. You might want to.
I will.
That up. I enjoyed it. The art style is very cool, and then actually Eastman, he does the flashback pages. So when they flash back about what happened, it's all in his art style from like the pulp books from black and white.
Cool. That's cool.
I really enjoyed that.
I'll tell you one thing that I remember being at Fantagraphics, and the guy who wound up being my editor in Aquaman had gotten a shipment from Playmates of the first Ninja Turtle toys.
Oh,
And I remember him opening the box, and they wanted him to do an article on it. And he pulled out the thing, and he just looked at it and go, "Who the fuck is going to want to buy this shit?"
yeah, about a billion people.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah. Oh, hold on, Chrisley. Yeah, all creators are compilations of their influences. I just think people need to look for more influences. I think if you're doing comics and animation, you should look at something besides comics and animation.
but that's oh well. I think there's two paths to that. Just strictly speaking from my experience, I think, and the people that I grew up with in self-publishing and had mentored me for a bit. It's like there's the two routes where it's like you said, they're just strictly stuck on comic books and animation, and those are their influences, and then that develops their style. Or there's people that see what's outside of there, if they use films or different artwork, paintings from the masters or drawings from the masters. They look up different anatomy books, like Bern Hogarth. Then they go out and they see, or like like Evan Dorkman, Milk and Cheese.
Yeah.
John and Vasquez, John the Homicidal Maniac, that turned into Invader Zim. He did that Invader Zim show afterwards. Like
we were looking at all kinds of stuff. I mean, we watched Japanese movies, but we watched a lot of Kurosawa, and we would watch High and Low, Kurosawa's urban detective story, over and over again. For a while, we were obsessed with Walter Hill's Streets of Fire, not because it was a good movie, but because it was a shitty movie, and we would spend hours trying to figure out how to make it a good movie, because it just looked so cool, and it felt like there's a really cool idea there. Murakami was really into furikuri before everybody else, and so we were looking at stuff like that, and that was what happened.
Well, FLCL?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite animes.
Well, that's what he was looking at when Teen Titans was going on.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
So, but we watched tons of old movies. I remember a poor PA getting ripped because he said he didn't like black and white movies because they were boring. And man, that guy had a hellish week at work after that.
I bet he didn't fit in at all. So after you guys did Batman: Return of the Joker, what came next? Because we're getting closer to Static Shock here now.
We were still doing Batman Beyond. Batman Beyond to finish it up. Look, I'm not fighting that Streets of Fire has its moments. Bakertown. I spent hours tearing that apart, and on my wall I had an original one-sheet poster in my office. So I was definitely on the Streets of Fire train.
We gotta give Bakertown his meme. Where is it?
Family, 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 family.
That's Bakertown for you.
So yeah, after Batman Beyond, we had huge layoffs. That was the first time we had layoffs in a long time.
Before we get to the layoffs, Batman Beyond didn't end.
Michael Pare was not a bigger actor because he was not actually an actor. He was just handsome.
Batman Beyond didn't end the way you guys wanted it to end, did you? Did it?
What?
Did you guys get to finish Batman Beyond the way you wanted?
I don't remember anything that. I remember they brought it back and they tried to bring it full circle in Justice League.
Right, and I think you said before you wish they didn't do that, or
yeah, I think that kind of stuff just, I understand why, but it just makes the world so small. Originally, I remember the talk at one of the first meetings was that Terry was supposed to be half Irish, half Latino, and that seems to have gone away somehow. I just don't think just don't think the world needs to be that small. It's kind of like, for me, it's like Star Trek, just going back and telling more stories about Kirk and Spock. It's like, there's other ships. Let's go watch one of those happen.
They're doing that again with Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Which I saw the teaser, and I gotta say, I am intrigued more than Discovery.
Is that the Captain Pike show?
Yeah. Well, for
Yeah,
the first season, and then they're gonna go to Kirk and Spock after that.
Yeah, I'd rather see a Captain Pike show.
No, it looks good, the teaser, anyways, but we'll see. I still can't make it through season 2 Picard yet. I'm still stuck on episode 3. So I don't know if you've been watching that or not.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. My partner, she's a big Star Trek fan.
Yeah,
so she was
What'd
watching
you
it.
think?
It was okay. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it pays attention to anything that's happened before. I mean,
Yeah.
I Patrick Stewart's a terrific actor, so yeah, more Patrick Stewart's fine. But
They released a teaser trailer for season 3 in the middle of Picard season 2.
yeah, they shot them simultaneously, didn't they?
Yeah, but you think they'd wait towards the end of it to release that teaser?
Yeah. So I don't remember anything about the ending of Batman Beyond being like there was a story they wanted to tell or something like that. We kind of knew that it was 52 was going to be the end of it. At that time, things were still on the border between shows going to 52 episodes and 65 episodes.
Right.
So we might have gotten another 13 out of it, but I don't remember anything about that.
So you guys got to tell the story you wanted in that episode you had.
As far as I knew, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you guys were put on, like, you guys just got cut and said, okay, that's it, and then you guys weren't able to finish your story, and then that's why they did it in Justice League Unlimited. Because I know you didn't like how they did it, like you said. You told me way before when you're on the show before, but
so the orders for animated shows used to be, if you got to 65 episodes, you were solid, because then you could strip the show. You could run 5 days a week. You'd have 13 weeks without any reruns.
Right.
Then at some point, like around the time we finished Superman, they decided 52 was all they needed, because they could see it going to cable as opposed to old style syndication, which, they made a lot more money on syndication. I like that it's getting darker outside, so I'm getting more and more atmospheric here.
We're going into the dark times.
So there was a thought that maybe we would get picked up for another 13, but we didn't. And the big thing I remember from there was that we had to lay off the crew, and we'd had to lay off parts of crews, but we'd never had to lay off the entire crew before. And that was kind of scary, because it was 75 people out of jobs.
Jesus. Where'd they all go? Like, did you keep in touch with any of them? Did they just go to different departments?
Yeah, when we got stuff back, we were able to hire some. Some of them got hired onto Static. I went onto Static next, and some of them got hired onto that. And then for the time we were doing the first season of Static was when Justice League went into development.
Okay.
And Justice League was a ridiculously easy sell, because Mike, what's his name, was the head of Cartoon Network at the time. It basically said, I want a Bruce Timm series for Cartoon Network.
Oh, there you go.
And Bruce said, how about Justice League? And he said, well, how are you going to do it? And he said, 13-hour episodes. And he said, can you make it 26 half hours? And that was pretty much it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it was the easiest sell ever.
What's that, sorry?
It was the easiest sell ever.
Yeah. It's Justice League, no problem.
Yeah.
How was development on Static Shock? Like, how did that come about?
Scott Gerald was pushing that. He was he had been on Freakazoid, and he had been on Animaniacs, and he'd briefly been on Superman before he had a heart attack, and came back and then went to Freakazoid. And he was a long time Hanna-Barbera employee who had come over. He was the right hand of Iwo Takamoto, who was the head of design at Hanna-Barbera, the guy who created Scooby-Doo. And he was sort of like Iwo's, there was a mentor-mentee relationship there. And so they gave it to Scott to develop. And Dennis Cowan came in as a director on it. He was working on the Sabrina cartoon at the time. And there was a lot of back and forth with the network. This is the time when they didn't want a violent show. So there was some question as to what Static could and couldn't do. There was a lot of work on the costume because they didn't want the costume from the comics. They said that right out. There was a lot of fairly veiled racism coming from the network on that, where they weren't saying it, but they were saying it. I mean, the dirty secret of kids' cartoons is that you need toys to be sold. And literally one of the major toy companies said, we don't want to do toys because those people, those were their exact words, those people don't buy toys for their children.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But it wound up being a really good, it became a good enough experience that when Justice League started going, I wanted to do Justice League, but I also wanted to continue working on Static. And the VP of production at the time would not let me do that. So somebody else took over my position, and Scott kept on for the second season. And that the best thing about what happened there was Dwayne McDuffie, because Dwayne started writing for Static, and then he came in and he was a story editor on Justice League. And meeting and the time I spent with Dwayne McDuffie was like one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Oh, that's such a. He just went too soon.
I remember, because I was at the gym and I thought about something that would make Dwayne laugh. And when I got home, I went to my office at home and I picked up my phone to call him, and I looked at the computer and the headline was that he had passed away.
Oh man. Yeah, he was a trailblazer for sure.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was brilliant.
Especially like his, like when you saw his name in the credits of the Justice League episode, you knew it was going to be a good episode.
Yeah, and so much fun to be around too.
Yeah. Oh, Hardware. Oh man, I haven't read that in a long time.
My daughter could never remember his name, but she used to ask, when's Daddy's big brown friend coming over?
So you were on the first season of Static Shock, and then they wouldn't let you continue.
Right.
So you went over to Justice League?
They wanted me on Justice League, and I said, yeah, but I want to do Static Shock too. And they said, no, you're on Justice League.
And you said, okay, I guess, right?
I mean, I wanted a job. I had mouths to feed by that time. By that time, I had 2 kids.
Were you involved straight at the beginning, or did you come in after they did the first 2-parter pilot episode?
Oh no, from the day one, like before that, while I was on Static, I was working on the development and overseeing some of that stuff.
What was the discussions about, like, starting with the 2-parter pilot episode? Let me look up the name because I know it wasn't Starro. It was the other aliens. Was it? It was the White Martians.
It was the White Martians.
Yeah, that's what it was. What was the discussion about that? If you remember, like, I guess decided to introduce the White Martians in the first pilot.
I think that was a way to get John Johns in there.
Yeah, that's the vehicle.
Yeah, because I believe that was his first appearance in the animated universe. So I think it was a way to get that and to have a big enough threat that would bring the 7 of them together. The discussions were, how do you do a story with 7 main characters? How do you service those characters every episode? And the idea was hit upon to do hour-long episodes, which then, because of production necessities of animation plus what the network wanted, became 2-part episodes.
It works well. It's a good format.
Yeah. There was a lot of discussion over another redesign of Batman. Once again, people were saying Bruce has gone too far. There were a lot of people who really hated the huge shoulder, small waist Superman model. There was a lot of talk on the internet at the time because chose to use Jon Stewart instead of Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern.
I'm glad that you guys used Jon Stewart.
Yeah. But this is the kind of stuff what was going on, and there was also, everybody was trying to guess if it was Wally West or Barry Allen as the Flash. I remember DC at the time. There was some question about Hawkgirl the star-crossed 3-parter that became a movie was actually supposed to be Qatar Hall and Hawkman, but DC wouldn't let us do it because they said it would damage Hawkman as a property.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay then. Moving on. Everyone talks about this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember anything about the development of that episode, or just like another episode that you guys did?
No, it's just another episode going through. It was something that we knew was going to be a little bit more touching and do some stuff that we don't normally do, but it was pretty well planned and pretty well understood that was what was going to happen.
Yeah, it was a very impactful episode, especially for Batman's character.
Yeah,
you guys did that quite well, balancing the spotlight for all the 7 characters. You guys made Batman shine quite a bit, especially in when you guys did the Earth 2 storyline.
Oh yeah, that was supposed to be Earth 2, but they wouldn't allow us to use those characters either.
Yeah.
I if I have any bone to pick with this stuff, it's that a Batman always has to be the cool character. You know, nobody can ever outshine Batman really in this show, and I think everybody should outshine him. One of the things I really loved out of all the stuff we did is there's a scene in World's Finest where Batman and Lois are being chased by the robots, and they're being chased. He's throwing everything from his damn utility belt at them. Nothing's stopping them. They're cornered, and Superman just comes in and lands on the robot and takes care of the problem. And you know, there's this great shot of him like, yeah, you're tough.
Yeah. Was that a studio mandate to make like no one could outshine Batman? He had to be like super cool, or
not the studio? I think it's
Bible?
A couple of the producers really felt that way, and I think DC felt that way. They were very like the scene. There's the episode where Batman sings. Holy crap! They lost their shit over that. You know, and we had to prove to them that it would work. Anything that might make Batman look silly to them was going to hurt the brand of the character. Like the way DC at that time, and this is not the people who are there now, but the way DC at that time operated was like one 22-minute episode can destroy everything. So don't let that happen.
Wow, they said that.
No, they didn't say that, but that was like what was behind everything. Like, you know, if you make Batman look bad in this episode, then Batman will never be any good ever again for any reason ever. Yeah.
Hold on, let me get some audio in on this.
So Jedi Master, the 2-part episodes was a fight. You know, a lot of times they didn't want to do that in animation because they didn't think that it would be able to go into syndication. So Avatar sort of broke that mold.
That's all we can play.
Yeah, look at that. Look at the way it looks. I mean, it looks cool.
I'll bring it up.
You know, it's super Warner Brothers 1940s film noirish.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of those characters are pulled in from Batman the Animated Series. Some of those background characters. That guy in particular. Yeah. Yeah, but as we got into, especially into Unlimited, you know, it's like you can use this character, you can't use that character. You can credit this person, you can't credit that person. Stuff like that was getting a little silly, I thought.
So, okay, so when you guys went into Unlimited, what was the idea behind expanding the roster of the Justice League cartoon?
Needed to do something.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
That was like, what are we going to do next?
Because you had mentioned earlier that like the struggle was how do we showcase each of these 7 characters in the time allotted, but then you just open it up, the Justice League Unlimited with like, boom, the roster's huge now.
Right, but each episode pretty much focuses on one character.
Right.
Right. There are a few exceptions like Seven Soldiers, but for the most part, it's like the very first episode is Green Arrow's episode.
Mm-hmm.
They ordered 26 Justice League, then they ordered 26 more, and we thought we were done because that was 52. And then they wanted 26 of another iteration of Justice League. So, like, what are you going to do? Well, let's go deep. Let's do a deeper dive into the DC universe. Yeah.
I know you don't remember this episode, but I think, or maybe you do now, but I had brought up to you before. One of my favorite ones is Booster Gold when he's trying to save it from the black hole guy.
Yeah.
Basically Matter Eater Lad. And everyone
Yeah.
keeps saying, "Thank you, Green Lantern." I think that comedy was great.
That kind of stuff was terrific. Like Elongated Man wound up being a great character in the show just for the few times he appeared. It was fun to have Captain Atom in, Dr. Midnight.
Blue Devil was cool to see.
Cool. Blue Devil was great. I mean, Blue Devil and Booster were two of my favorite characters when they were first being published in that era of comics. And I also liked I liked a lot of the Golden Age characters. Like when I was in DC's good graces for the brief time I was in them, I had pitched a Wildcat series and a Vigilante, the original Vigilante series.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
I wanted to do Wildcat in the middle of the Los Angeles gangs of the 90s because they had just come out of fighting Ragnarok, and so they were like in their 40s, and the whole gang thing was going on in LA, and I thought that would be hilarious because that's what Wildcat started out to be. He's just a guy protecting his neighborhood.
Yeah, put on his boxing wraps and went out there in a cat mask.
Yeah. There was the whole Defenders riff with Doctor Strange, Aquaman, and Simon, whatchamacallit. That was fun. There was a lot of fun stuff to do in this show.
You guys, yeah. You guys even brought in was it the red not Red Tornado?
Red Tornado. Red Tornado.
The one beside him, the Russian robot.
Right corner. Oh, Red Rocket. Rocket Red.
Red Rocket, that's his name.
Rocket Red. Yeah.
Rocket. You even brought
Rocket
him and the Knight.
In the back, there's Aztec.
Yeah, like Grant Morrison's Aztec. Like you brought him in. Like that was very cool to see.
There's the Ray. There's the new Dr. Light, Vixen,
Hawk and Dove.
Yeah.
Is that Animal Man? That's Animal Man back there next to Elongated Man.
Where's Animal Man back next to who?
Next to Elongated Man. Right by Steel.
No, Vibe.
That's Vibe, right? Okay, yeah.
Vibe and Gypsy were the Aquaman led Justice League.
Right. You guys never brought in Animal Man, did you? No.
I think there was. My guess is there was probably some rights thing that we weren't, aware of.
Was that a constant struggle? You guys want to introduce some characters, and they said no.
Yeah.
What that you wanted to introduce?
We had a long discussion over how and when we could use the original Captain Marvel. That was weeks. And Elongated Man. We kept getting notes on Elongated Man that he's not Plastic Man, so he can only do certain things. Like we had him doing some Plastic Man things. We couldn't use Plastic Man, so we used the Elongated Man.
Did they have something in development for Plastic Man at the time?
Yeah, there was a feature film in development at the time. And there was the Hawkman thing. I remember that. I remember one year, it was the day after Thanksgiving. It was a Friday after Thanksgiving, and I was at home on the phone with Paul Levitz talking about what characters we could use and couldn't use. That was how I spent my day after American Thanksgiving eating leftovers. Was
Still
talking to Paul about what we could use. Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the top. In the top, behind Stripe, there's Nemesis, for God's sakes. Right behind Stripe, next to Blue Devil, is Nemesis. Now, there's a deep dive into the DC library.
Yeah. I like how you guys threw Ray in there too.
Yeah,
it's a relatively new character at the time.
The new Ray, yeah. It's not the original Ray; it's the new Ray. I was always like fighting for the original. Why can't we use the Quality Comics guys? I want my Freedom Fighters. I want my Uncle Sam. I want my Human Bomb. I want those guys.
That would have been a great episode if you guys threw those in.
I can tell you, one thing about Justice League was when we did the Vandal Savage episode, the World War II episode, it was a fight to the end. The big thing they had was that we couldn't use swastikas. And we were like, we're going back in time and fighting World War II. Vandal Savages taking over the Nazi party. You can't use swastikas because swastikas might offend people. And I remember standing up in a meeting and saying, I would like to point out that we are aggressively anti-Nazi in this episode, especially the part where Superman throws the Nazi tank. So that's why they had that weird sort of symbol instead of a swastika.
That was a great episode.
That was the one that everybody was really dying to do. We were dying to do the Blackhawks and dying to do a World War II episode.
And was it... What episode was the one where Superman, he travels back in time or like travels to the forward of the future, I think, and he's fighting Vandal Savage? That wasn't that one.
No, that was the Mirror Universe one, wasn't it?
I believe so. Let me look.
Yeah,
up here.
Yeah, where you go where you got the Superman in the black and white uniform.
And Vandal Savage. Was it Justice League or was it from the Superman series?
I think it was the Superman series, but there was something in Justice League like that, Justice League Unlimited like that too.
Yeah, episode Hereafter from Injustice League.
Yeah.
Like Superman, he's got his classic costume on. He wakes up, he's got like he's trapped and he thinks he's on this alien planet, but it's actually Earth. Yeah,
it's almost like the nightmare sequence in Snyder's Justice League.
Right. We're running a little bit out of time here, but I didn't want to. We're kind of segueing into it. How was your experience overall working at Warner Brothers? You mentioned that, like, they underlyingly not so subtle racist.
Oh, no. That was not from Warner Brothers. That was from
the toy companies.
I'm trying to turn a light on in here.
Yep.
Yeah, that was from the toy companies. Yeah, and that had to do mostly with static. Overall,
What's up, Vodka? Much respects to Shaun McLaughlin.
Thank you. Overall, it was a great experience. I like the stuff that I worked on. I'm proud of the stuff I worked on. I can't look back at it much anymore because I spent so much time with it, and now I only look at it and see the problems. I wish that I had been involved more creatively. I mean, I wrote episodes here and there, and I sat in a lot of the meetings, but I never, other than Teen Titans, which I worked on the development of, and there were a couple other projects I worked on development for. I did development on a proposed Metalman series, a proposed Aquaman series. I did a take on Thundercats back then for Warner's. I wish I'd been able to work more creatively instead of just production. And like I said, I was doing some of it, but
production keeps it so busy, I can imagine.
Yeah. I tell people that at some point anything becomes just a job, and I was there for 12 years straight.
Yeah.
So, I think I was burnt out and I was ready to move on.
Yeah, I bet I can see that happening.
I mean, I had 10 weeks of vacation paid out when I left that I had never been able to take.
I haven't taken a vacation in a long time.
Yeah. But I had little kids at the time, so
I have little kids. Well, I have a dog. Never mind.
I was almost never home for dinner. I would drop my son off at school in the morning, and then I wouldn't come home till 8 or 9 at night.
Yeah, just working.
Yep.
But overall, it's an enjoyable experience working at animation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got to do a lot of fun stuff. I got to do things that people still admire. I got to do stuff that I was proud of. Unlike a lot of people, I never really had to work on anything that I didn't wind up having some pride in.
That's awesome. Did anyone from the film division come over and say, "Hey, we want some advice," or "We're thinking of doing this"? Blah blah blah.
Rarely. I went out to lunch with somebody from the film division once, and they were back before when Superman was in its development hell, and they said, we spent $8 million on script so far, and I don't know why we just don't go to you guys. And I said, yes, why not?
That's what the fans have been saying for ages too.
Yeah. Yeah, so not that. I mean, I get to walk around the lot and go to sets sometimes and see stuff, but no, not much.
Oh well, the DCAU, man, it's something that's like shaped so many childhoods and so many young adulthoods. Is it? I don't know. And now I don't want to compare DC to Marvel, but Marvel never really had anything like that. You know, nothing like that. That staple when it came to the animation,
Right.
especially with the feature film, like feature animation films too.
Right. It's flipped between the two of them. You know, DC the animation's better, Marvel the films came up better.
Yeah, it's absolutely strange. And even when the comic books, like when Marvel in the last 10, 12 years, they've been riding high, like the DC comic books, the New 52, they just went dark and gritty. And then the films, the Marvel films got really hopeful and quippy. You know, it's like, but before, like DC comic books were all hopeful and full of jokes, and the Marvel comics were all gritty and dark.
Yep.
You know, it's weird how it all flipped.
Yep.
So, okay, so we're punching up time. That's
the last night of the
Twilight. I cannot.
Twilight.
I cannot wait to see it.
I will.
You know, I'm tired, Sean. I apologize.
As soon as I have a trailer, I will shoot it to you.
Yes, please. Yes, please. I can't wait to see it. Thank you so much for stopping by, Sean.
Thank you for the conversation. I really enjoyed it, and thanks everybody for your comments.
Yes, thank you very much for stopping in and watching. We appreciate you guys watching and commenting. We'll see you guys this Friday on our small screen live. Edward and Clint and I will be back, and maybe we'll bring in some guests on the Friday. We'll see what happens. Sean, thanks again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Great talking to you.
Bye.